Hello and welcome to Coconuts and Camels. I'm Tristan.
And I'm Helen.
And today we're going to run through everything you need to know when buying a van or a minibus for your very own DIY camper conversion.
Stay tuned to find out more about our van, what to look for when buying one, and why we chose a Ford Transit Minibus. So we're a couple from the UK and we have an online travel blog. You can check us out at coconutsandcamels.co.uk, where we document all of our adventures from around Europe.
But more importantly, we're super excited to share how we get on with our van build for what we will call our home for when we're on the road travelling again. We're doing the conversion ourselves and we're trying to keep the budget under £20,000.
So we'll be documenting every little bit of our van conversion and giving you step-by-step guides and our top tips on what to do, so basically you don't have to endure any of our mistakes that we make.
We really appreciate your support if you subscribe to our channel. You'll keep up to date with all of our latest episodes, such as how to remove the seats, removing plastic moulding, getting rid of rust, and also our favourite, planning our van. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. So now we'd like to introduce our van. It's a Ford Transit Minibus. It's a 2014 Mark 8 model. We bought it with just over 70,000 miles on the clock. It's a 2.2 turbo diesel. Hopefully we'll be able to get up some hills.
So we got it for just under £12,000, which was actually the top end of our budget, but we'll run through kind of prices later. So we actually don't have a name for it at the moment, and we'd love to hear any suggestions, so let us know in the comments below.
So the first thing you're going to consider when you're buying your van is your budget. Not only for the van itself, but also for the build. Both are really dependable on what you want from your van. Whether you're going to go for a high top or a long wheelbase, whether you want a nice new shiny van with loads of tech, or an old classic camper, your price is going to be dependent on what you're after. For us, we wanted something in between. Nothing older than a 2012 with reasonably good bodywork and average mileage. We really needed a high top with our van as we are quite tall, and also an extra long wheelbase for extra room whilst we're on the road.
So we budgeted £8,000 to £12,000 for the actual van itself, and our minibus came in at the top end of our budget. So in terms of the actual van build costs, we are completely new to this, so we pulled together a bit of a draft budget, looking at what core items we will need to buy and what kind of prices to expect, to give us a bit of a guideline cost. So for that we've budgeted £6,000 to £8,000 for the actual van build, so £20,000 in total to do the whole camper van conversion. So thinking about what you are going to do with your van and what you need to use it for will completely influence your budget as well. So some key points to consider are you going to live in your van, or are you just going to use it for like weekend trips? Do you need to have space to work in it? Who's going to be staying in it? So are you just like a couple like us, or a whole family? Do you have pets you're going to bring along, or are you just a solo traveller? So an easy one to miss is whether you actually want to be able to stand up in your van. For us that was something really essential that we wanted, and because we're quite tall, then it added an extra kind of challenge to find a van that we could stand up in. And lastly, what do you want to be able to contain in your van? So like, do you want a full bed? Do you also want like a kitchen area? Do you want an inbuilt shower and like wet room? So those are all kind of key things to factor in into your budget and planning.
So the next thing to consider is whether you're getting a panel van or a minibus. Now for us, we started searching for panel vans, but we quickly realised that a minibus was the better option. The first pro of getting a minibus is that they usually come with much lower mileage, and we think it's because they're usually used for schools or colleges running their students around. So in turn, this has an effect on a couple of other factors: the condition and the price. So the minibuses that we viewed actually came in a much better condition The 3 or 4 that we actually viewed had hardly any dents, had hardly any scratches, whereas the panel vans, well, they were just beaten up. And lastly, the windows. With minibuses, you always get the windows down both sides, so it saves you having to cut holes through the panels of the panel vans and stick in your own windows, which then saves you time and some cost. The only downside to that is that they're there and you can't move them, but you can build around them, which we'll get onto in a later episode. There is one drawback about getting a minibus, and that's you'll have to remove the seats. So if you don't mind giving an extra couple of weeks removing those seats, then get a minibus. But if you want to save that time, get a panel van.
So another key point to consider is what brand and model you want. So there's loads of options out there, but a few of the kind of favourites that we heard a lot about and that we looked into include a Mercedes Sprinter. So these are generally more expensive, not only for the van themselves, but also generally the parts as well. So that's something to consider if you're looking at that. A bit biased, but a Ford Transit as well. They're just generally pretty good, cheaper than Mercedes Sprinters, and also really cheap in terms of parts. So if you need to get quite a few bits, and also a Volkswagen Crafter. So they're a bit more of a rare find, but also really good from what we've heard of as well.
So when it comes to van life or building your own van, size matters. You're living in this thing after all. So if you're looking for something where you want to be comfortable, we recommend an extra long wheelbase and extra high top, or as big as a van that you can get your hands on. If you're struggling to find the right van size that you need, we've made a Google sheet with all of the lists of models and all of their sizes in terms of their inch length and their inch length and their centimetre length, and also their square footage as well.
Dimensions.
And their dimensions. Links in the description below.
So a couple of last points to consider are if you're looking to drive quite long distances, you might want to look at a van that has cruise control. This is something that we didn't really think about to begin with, but luckily our minibus does have it. Another point is parking sensors. Especially if you've got a long wheelbase like this one, then it just really helps you easily navigate when parking or just kind of fitting into small spaces because they are really long.
So for us, a minibus really was the best option. It has all the windows put in already, saving us loads of money and all of the other points that we've mentioned before. So we are going to go through all the other options or the other benefits of why we chose a minibus.
Due to the windows at the back, we can actually fit a full double mattress in sideways. We've got windows in the rear doors, making it easier to navigate when driving. Due to it being a minibus, it also has twin rear wheels, meaning we can get double the amount of traction at the back. Great for when you're parked off-road or generally driving a heavy load. It already has a roof window, which adds loads of extra natural light. The current windows also have 4 which we're actually able to open. It has aircon in the back, as well as this nifty side step feature, which is Tristan's favourite piece from the van.
So that's a wrap for today's episode. Thanks guys, thanks for your time. If you'd like to give us a subscribe, we'd really appreciate it. We are new to this is our first video. There's a big red button down there, and if you gig that, then it really means a lot to us. We have a lot of cool videos coming up, how we're going to remove our seats, removing rust, stripping the van, and also planning the van, and much more coming up later on in the year. So give this video a like, hit that subscribe button today, and we'll see you on the next one.